The Council of Silence. The chamber of the Imperial High Council floated silently above the twin suns of Alcor Prime, its polished obsidian walls shimmering with reflected starlight. 12 high-backed thrones formed a circle, each occupied by a representative of one of the Empire's ruling species. All eyes, slitted or glowing, compound or mechanical, were fixed on the figures standing in the center. General Kareth Vorwin, war hero of the Solari Ascendancy, and the most decorated living strategist in the Galactic Empire. Kareth stood tall, his reptilian form draped in ceremonial crimson, the gold trimming on his robe muted under the chamber's dim lighting. His tone was calm, but his words struck the council like solar flares. You must let the humans remain neutral. A ripple of disdain circled the room. One counselor, an insectoid from the Vrek hive, clicked her mandibles irritably. Another, a data node intelligence projecting from a shimmering cube, pulsed red. General Kareth, drawled High Executor Yultarn of the Core Dominion, a serpentine being wrapped in woven light. Your empathy is noted, but Earth sits upon strategic worm gates. If we do not act, the Threx will. The humans have refused both sides, Kareth replied evenly. They do not wish to be pawns in our war. Forcing them will not gain us loyalty, it will spark resistance. A thick silence settled in. The word resistance in Kareth's mouth sounded less like rebellion, more like prophecy. Kareth turned, letting his gaze sweep across the council. I have fought in 72 campaigns. I have faced primitive insurrectionists, machine uprisings, and the Threx incursion at Gralvel. Nothing has surprised me as much as the humans. His voice softened, not from fear, but from memory. 30 cycles ago, during a border conflict near the Fringe Worlds, I commanded a sweep against local resistance fighters. We expected a short campaign. The humans, just settlers, scientists, and mercenaries, should have been easily pacified. But they didn't fight like soldiers. They fought like a wildfire. No central command, no pattern, just improvisation, misdirection, and sheer will. They disrupted our logistics, turned our weapons against us. And when we tried to retaliate, they vanished into their forests, only to strike from shadows days later. Kareth's eyes narrowed. They are not powerful because of their ships or their weapons. They are powerful because they refuse to yield, because neutrality is their choice, and they will defend that choice to the last breath. Then let us take away their breath, spat Counselor Tarn. A murmur of approval echoed through the chamber. Kareth's tail twitched in frustration. And what happens if they retaliate not as a single world, but as a species? Have any of you studied their culture, their history? Once they unify in anger, they do not stop. They do not forgive. They do not forget. If we turn Earth into a battlefield, we may win the system. But we will inherit a war with a species that builds strategy from chaos and identity from resistance. You speak as if we are the fools, grumbled another counselor. I speak as a general who does not mistake silence for weakness. A soft chime interrupted. The chamber's AI brought up a holographic projection, a fleet formation departing a moon base near Sector 19. A forward command group, Empire insignias prominent on their hulls. Kareth's jaw clenched. Whose orders were those? He asked coldly. Counselor Tarn did not answer directly. The humans have made their position clear. They will not join the Empire willingly. That leaves us with few options. You order the fleet without a vote? The matter was expedited. Kareth stepped forward, his voice rising. You are sending ships into human space? That is not diplomacy. That is occupation. That is survival, Tarn countered. The threats have begun reinforcing their flanks. Earth's neutrality is not an asset. It is a liability we cannot afford. Kareth's eyes, usually calm and calculating, blazed with fury. You will awaken something you cannot control. Let them come, Tarn said, dismissing the warning with a flick of his claw. Let us see if these chaotic primitives truly pose the threat you believe they do. Kareth took a step back. The chamber felt colder, despite the heat from the suns outside. You are not preparing for war, he said. You are provoking a reckoning. As the council recessed, murmurs followed Kareth like whispers of ghosts. Some viewed him as a traitor, others as a coward. But a few, just a few, looked uncertain, troubled by his conviction. In the shadows of the corridor beyond the chamber, Kareth paused beside a comms relay. He keyed in a private, encrypted channel, one he hadn't used in decades. "Walker," he said quietly, "this is Kareth. They're coming for Earth. Tell your people to prepare." And with that, the warrior who had once bombed cities now warned of an invasion. Not as an enemy, but as a reluctant friend. The human gambit. Geneva was silent. In the vast chamber of the United Nations Galactic Relations Headquarters, the usual buzz of diplomats, scientists, and security personnel had been replaced by a tense, waiting stillness. Holographic screens hovered midair, all displaying the same image: an Imperial fleet approaching Mars orbit. Ambassador Elena Dela Cruz stood at the head of the main conference table, arms crossed tightly over her dark blue suit, her expression unreadable. The room's walls shimmered faintly with active jamming fields. No listening drones, no external access. Just the truth, sealed behind titanium and plasma. "They're calling it a peacekeeping mission," said Director Singh, head of Earth's Orbital Defense Network. His voice dripped with contempt. 12 capital ships, 47 support cruisers, fully armed, and not a single diplomatic envoy on board. Elena nodded slowly. "So the Empire has made its move." She tapped the screen embedded in the table, pulling up a list of recent anomalies. Economic spikes in commodity markets, strange fluctuations in orbital traffic patterns, and false flag distress signals intercepted from Earth's own satellites. "They've been laying the groundwork for weeks," she murmured. "Financial manipulation, communications interference, internal destabilization." Singh leaned in. "We've already confirmed 2 Empire operatives caught near Geneva, one embedded in a data security firm, another impersonating a trade envoy in Nairobi." Across the table, General Alvarez, Earth's planetary defense commander, clenched his jaw. "This isn't an accident. They're not asking us to join their war. They're trying to push us into it. And they think we won't push back," Elena said. She straightened, her voice calm but steel hard. "They believe humans are a fractured species. Distracted, weak. But history tells a different story. Every time we've been forced to unify, we've changed the rules." A soft chime sounded at her wrist. A secure message flashed across her screen. Only 4 words. "They're already among you." "Okay." She read it twice, heart hammering in her chest. Kareth, the Solari general, was a ghost in the political halls of the galaxy. Feared by many, respected by few, known for brutal honesty and battlefield brilliance. The last time they'd spoken, 6 years ago, he'd warned her that neutrality was more dangerous than war because it made enemies out of both sides. Now he was warning her again. She keyed into a direct line with Earth's intelligence network. "Activate protocol Ghostwatch. I want a full audit of all off-world diplomats, contractors, and supply chains within the last 30 days. Assume infiltration." "Understood, ma'am." "Also," she said, turning to Alvarez, "scramble Sentinel Team 6. Quietly. If the Empire wants to play in the shadows, we'll show them who invented asymmetric warfare." Alvarez cracked a thin smile. "It'll be done." 3 hours later, under the cover of a classified weather event, a Black Ops dropship pierced the cloud line over the Himalayas. Its target, a hidden relay station recently activated using old Terran infrastructure, pre-unification tech, almost forgotten. Inside the mountain pass, Sentinel Team 6 moved like ghosts. Their suits absorbed light, heat, even sound. What they found stunned them. A fully operational communications bunker, staffed by a dozen off-world agents, Empire operatives relaying disinformation and tactical data in real time. The agents were taken alive. No casualties, no leaks. But the message was clear: the Empire hadn't come to negotiate. They had come to provoke. That night, Elena stood before the General Assembly, her speech broadcast not just to Earth's nations, but to its colonies, its allies, and to the stars beyond. "We have received word from inside the Empire's own ranks," she said. "We know this fleet is not here to protect peace. It is here to shatter it. They seek to force humanity into a war we did not start, and have refused to join." She paused, letting the silence settle. Billions watched her face, measured her words. "We will not be intimidated. We will not be manipulated. And we will not be divided. Earth remains neutral, but not because we are afraid. We remain neutral because we believe there is another path forward. one not paved in blood but in courage. Outside, in orbit, Earth's defense grid lit up, not to fire, but to show its readiness. Shield satellites repositioned. Drone fleets emerged from stealth. Not a declaration of war, but a warning. Elena returned to her office to find a new message, this one coded through a diplomatic dead channel no one had used in years. It bore no signature, just an attached image. A Solari ceremonial blade stabbed into the sand of an alien desert. Beside it, human boots. Below, a short line of text. Tell them not to draw blood on that soil. It remembers. She stared at the screen, then whispered to herself, "You really are trying to save us, aren't you?" For now, the Empire had not fired a shot. Earth had not declared war, but both sides were moving. And in the great galactic game, humanity had just made its first gambit, not with a weapon, but with resolve. The lines we do not cross. In the shadow of Jupiter's largest moon, a rogue signal pulsed from a derelict mining outpost. It broadcast no coordinates, no beacon ID, only a cryptic, ancient phrase in a human dialect long since abandoned. Come alone, or not at all. It was meant for one man. General Kareth Vorwin sat alone in the cockpit of a stealth courier vessel, watching the stars blur past. He had not worn a military uniform in weeks. The Empire had stripped his rank, seized his credentials, and declared him strategically compromised. But they hadn't silenced him. He had one mission left. Ahead, the outpost came into view, dead, cold, and forgotten. Yet the docking lights blinked to life as if welcoming an old friend. Inside the airlock waited Captain James Walker, former Earth Space Force's special operative and one of the few humans Kareth respected, because he had once beaten him in open combat. Twice. "You're late," Walker said with a lopsided grin. Kareth stepped off the ramp, his tail flicking with mild irritation. "I had to disable 3 tracking satellites and bypass 2 Imperial kill orders just to get here." Walker shrugged. "Sounds like a Tuesday." They clasped forearms, an old warrior's gesture, a rare moment of trust in a galaxy that had forgotten the meaning of the word. Walker led Kareth into the main chamber. It was dimly lit, lined with relics of old wars, faded banners, broken helmets, and the cracked blade of the Threx commander they'd once hunted together. Here, war was a museum exhibit. "I read the files," Walker said, pouring Kareth a glass of water. "An act of hospitality among soldiers. They're not coming to negotiate, are they?" "No," Kareth replied. "They're coming to provoke. Then they'll say Earth fired first." Walker leaned back. "We won't. But if they land troops, that changes everything." Kareth's eyes narrowed. "And what happens if they do?" Walker's voice turned cold. "Then we stop being neutral and start being human." On the Solari homeworld of Tvale, Kareth's brother, a monk of the Path of Still Flame, sat in silent meditation, watching news of the Empire's fleet deployment ripple across subspace. He whispered a prayer not for victory, but for wisdom. "The humans," he said to his apprentice, "are not dangerous because of their power. They're dangerous because they believe in choice, and they do not forgive those who take it away." Above Earth, the Imperial fleet's lead ship, Dominion's Claw, locked into orbit like a vulture circling its prey. On its bridge, Admiral Varney studied Earth's defense grid with analytical calm. They power their weapons, but do not fire. Posture without purpose. His second-in-command, a clone-bred tactician named Trell, replied, "They refuse engagement. But they watch. Every move we make." Varney scoffed. "They are insects with fangs. Flashy but soft." "Still," Trell said carefully, "there's a statistical anomaly in their readiness. No clear doctrine. No unified command signal. Just chaos." Varney's finished. That's all they have. And yet, something in his gut twisted. At Earth's UN Command Center, Ambassador Elena Dela Cruz stood with General Alvarez, watching the sky. "They haven't fired," Alvarez said. "But they've moved closer. That's the 5th orbit shift in an hour." "Testing reactions," Elena replied, like a child tapping glass, waiting for the spider to jump. "They must think we're bluffing." "No," she said, voice low. "They think we'll hesitate." Then she turned to the AI operator. "Project to all major powers. Prepare a joint communique to the Galactic Tribunal. I'm invoking the Neutral Accord." The AI blinked. The Accord hasn't been activated in over a century. That's about to change. In the tribunal station above, Solari-controlled space, the activation of the neutral Accord sent shockwaves through diplomatic channels. Earth's motion was clear. Any unauthorized incursion into its territory would be considered an act of aggression against all neutral systems under galactic law. And suddenly, Earth's neutrality wasn't just a political position. It was a legal weapon. Kareth watched it unfold on a cracked holoscreen inside Walker's hideout. They'll either back down, Kareth said, or they'll shatter the law for all to see. Walker tapped his boot against the floor. So what's the plan if they don't blink? Kareth met his eyes. Then you remind them why you stayed out of the war. The Empire now faced an impossible choice. Advance and risk war with neutral systems, or retreat and lose political face. Either path led to instability. And worse, Earth had started to coordinate with other fringe neutral planets. Old alliances stirred. Messages of solidarity spread. The humans hadn't drawn a line in the sand. They had drawn it in the stars. Back aboard Dominion's Claw, Admiral Varnes received a final, silent broadcast. No encryption, no noise, just a message in old Earth English, accompanied by an image of Earth's moon silhouetted against a glowing Earth. Do not cross this sky. We have buried empires in quieter places. In the silence that followed, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity hadn't declared war. They'd simply made it clear. Push them far enough, and they wouldn't fight fair. They would fight forever. The decision that changed the stars. The Grand Tribunal orbited a quiet star, chosen millennia ago for its distance from war. It had no strategic value, no military garrison, no natural resources. Only law lived here. Until today, in the tribunal chamber, an ancient hall of obsidian, gold, and starlight, representatives from over 100 species gathered. Some hovered in anti-grav thrones. Others sat coiled or rooted in place. No weapons, no shouting, just the cold hum of judgment. At the center stood Ambassador Elena Dela Cruz, flanked by Earth's delegation in formal blue-gray robes. To her right, a surprise witness, General Kareth Voruin, disgraced by his own empire, now branded a traitor. On the opposite side stood Admiral Varnes, resplendent in his ceremonial battle plate, his venomous stare fixed on Dela Cruz like a targeting laser. The tribunal chair, an ancient fungal sovereign named Vitor, clicked 1,000 tendrils together, calling for silence. Elena Dela Cruz, you claim Earth's neutrality has been threatened by direct military encroachment. Do you have evidence? Elena stepped forward, calm, unyielding. I do, provided by General Voruin and by Earth's own orbital surveillance. The Empire's fleet entered our defense perimeter without cause. They planted operatives on our soil. They attempted economic sabotage to force political collapse, all in violation of the neutral accord signed by the Empire itself 300 cycles ago. A chorus of whispers spread through the chamber. Admiral Varnes raised his voice. These are exaggerations, paranoia. Earth is a strategic node. Its so-called neutrality is a cover for Dominion sympathies. Kareth stepped forward now, his voice deep and measured. I served the Empire for over a century. I led wars that broke planets and crowned emperors. I know the signs of imperial overreach. He turned, addressing the entire chamber. You have no idea what humanity is capable of. Some laughed quietly. Others listened. Kareth's gaze sharpened. You think they're a child race. Undisciplined. Unpredictable. And that is exactly what makes them dangerous. Not because they want war, but because if you force war upon them, they will not stop. They will break your rules, redefine the battlefield. They will change you before you change them. A long silence. The tribunal chair's voice echoed. Admiral Varnes, do you deny sending ships beyond the Accord's line? I do not deny it, Varnes replied, tone defiant. I justify it. The humans are too close to the front. Their neutrality cannot last. Better we guide them now than face them as wild cards later. Elena turned her eyes to the chair. And there it is. Not an accident. Not a miscommunication. A plan to force our hand. The chair shifted its vast body. Then Earth invokes the full protection of the Accord. We do, Elena said, and we request enforcement against the Empire's violation. More murmurs. Then silence. A vote was cast by tentacle, claw, light, and thought. One by one, the chamber filled with silent affirmations. When the results flashed into the air, Admiral Varney snarled. Earth had won. The tribunal ruled the Empire's presence in Sol System illegal. The fleet would withdraw. Further aggression would be met with coordinated sanctions and military resistance from all neutral aligned systems. The Empire's bluff had been called and broken. As the chamber emptied, Elena turned to Kareth. You didn't have to come. They could have executed you. Kareth nodded. I've seen empires burn from arrogance. Better to speak now than watch another fall. You sure you want to go back to them? She asked. I'm not, he replied. But I've lived long enough to know when to walk away from a war. 2 days later, the Imperial fleet departed from Earth's orbit without a word. No battle, no surrender, just silent retreat. But in their place, something had shifted. Earth's message had rippled across the galaxy. Small colonies, fringe worlds, former vassals. Many now looked to humanity as a model, a power not born of conquest, but of refusal, of resistance. Atop a coastal cliff near the UN Pacific Defense Campus, Elena and Kareth stood side by side, the wind tugging at their clothes. This could have gone the other way, she said quietly. Yes, Kareth agreed. And your species would have survived anyway. That's what they don't understand. She glanced sideways. What do you mean? They think you survive because of technology, or alliances, or numbers. But it's none of that. His eyes narrowed at the horizon. You survive because you don't care how things are supposed to work. You break patterns. You don't just win wars, you unmake them. She smiled faintly. You sound like you admire us. I do, Kareth said. But admiration is also a warning. He turned to her, serious now. They will come again. Not just the Empire. Others. They'll test you, tempt you, try to draw you into their games. We'll stay neutral, Elena said. Kareth shook his head. You won't. Sooner or later, they'll push too far. And when that day comes, he paused, then finished the sentence like a prophecy. They'll regret not letting you stay out of it. Epilogue. Across the galaxy, leaders watched the footage of Earth stand. Some saw strength. Some saw threat. A few saw hope. And far beyond the stars, in the cold silence between systems, the Empire prepared a new plan. Because they understood now. Earth didn't need a throne to rule. They only needed a reason to rise.